Hey, what's up, everybody? Excited to be with you today. Gearing up for tomorrow's all-day live stream. Tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. We go live for the October LSAT score release. We'll be going all day to help folks get ready for the LSAT in January, February, April, June, and beyond. Whenever you take it, of course, the initial reason for doing this is to support those who took the October LSAT and are getting their scores back tomorrow, but I also know that many of you are gearing up for the LSAT in January or February, regardless of whether you took it in October or not. And so whatever the case may be, I'll be here to support you for your next steps. Again, we go live tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'll be on all day answering as many questions as I can for those of you taking it in January, February, April, June, and beyond. So make sure to tune in tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. I'll be there to support you. And so I'll run this the way I usually like to do these. I'll record my straightforward YouTube video live for all of you here. Then I'll open it up to some general Q&A on anything and everything LSAT and law school admissions. So please drop your questions in the chat, in the comments, and I'll get to as many of those as I can. Now, the topic for today, how serious LSAT students get 170 plus and $100,000 scholarships. So let's say you want a 170 or above on the LSAT, you want law school paid for, and you're willing to work for it. But the thing is that working hard is not enough. I see so many students doing everything right. They're drilling the questions, they're watching the explanation videos, they're taking full-length practice tests, but still, their scores don't move. They plateau, they get stuck, they hit a 162, then another, and it's not because they're lazy, it's because they're missing something critical. They're missing a system where they can get real feedback. And what they're lacking is a study plan built for top scorers. So if that's you, if you're stuck in the low 160s and you're starting to wonder if you've hit your ceiling, or maybe you're just afraid of wasting another 3, 6, 9, 12 months guessing your way forward, I want to give you a better path to hit your goals. So first, let's talk about the plateau. There is a very specific score range, say 160 to 167, where students tend to get stuck. I call this the dead zone. It's where your progress slows down dramatically, even for smart, hardworking people. And here's the thing that messes with you. You've already internalized the beginner advice. You already know how to spot extreme language. You know what conditional reasoning looks like, and you've memorized all those classic common fallacies. You're doing everything that Reddit told you to do. But still, your scores are not going anywhere because after a certain point, the LSAT stops testing what you know and it starts testing how you think. It starts testing your consistency, your focus after an hour or two, how precisely you read under pressure, and whether you have the capacity to actually learn from your mistakes. And the sad truth is that most people don't. Most students just take test after test, hoping their score will magically go up. They miss a question, they read the explanation, and they say, oh, that makes sense now, I get it. And then they move on, and they make the same mistake again next time, next practice test, next week, and the week after that, and the test after that. And so if this sounds at all familiar, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you, but there is something wrong with your approach. High scorers just think differently. They don't treat the LSAT like it's just another test. They treat it like a six-figure decision because that is exactly what it is. The difference between a 162 and a 172 isn't just 10 points. It's the difference between a full scholarship versus taking on $200,000 in debt. It's the difference between getting into Columbia versus getting waitlisted at Fordham. It could be the difference between finishing this admissions cycle versus having to apply all over again next year. And When you realize that, you stop treating your prep like it's a side hobby. You stop saying, let me just watch a few videos this week, and you stop relying on Reddit to plan your study schedule. You start thinking like an investor. You ask, where is my time actually paying off? Where are my blind spots? And what is the fastest way to make the biggest possible score jump? The students who win this game don't hope, they optimize. So, what are they doing differently? Let me break this down into three distinct parts. The first part is structure. Top scorers don't just study more, they study in phases. Most people go straight into full length practice tests, but that is a mistake. High scorers build the foundation first. They go step by step. First, they learn the fundamentals, how arguments work, how to spot assumptions, how to break down question types. Then phase two is accuracy, where they do untimed questions by type, the goal being at least 80 to 90% accuracy. And every single mistake gets logged and reviewed, no skipping. Phase three, individual timed sections to work on your pacing, one 35-minute section at a time. Then phase four, full-length exams and endurance. You're simulating the real thing here, full test day with timing, the setups, the break, and you learn how to stay sharp even into the third hour. And finally, phase five, you're tapering and you're polishing. You're reducing the volume of questions that you complete, and you are increasing the quality of your review. You shore up your weak areas, you review variance in your scores, and you get consistent. Now, the second part I want you to think about is review. And this is where most people fall apart. High scorers don't just ask, why is the right answer right? They ask, why did I fall for the wrong one? What assumption was I making when I eliminated the wrong answer, when I eliminated the right answer? And is this a one-time mistake, or is it a pattern? Top scorers keep a mistake journal. They name their blind spots, and they build systems to avoid making the same mistake again. They treat this like a lab experiment, not random guesswork. And finally, part three is feedback, because self-review only takes you so far. There comes a point where you can no longer see your own mistakes, because your reasoning will feel totally valid even when it's not. Top scorers know this, so they don't waste time flailing around in isolation. They get feedback from coaches, from mentors, from people who've already done it. And by the way, if you would like my help getting that kind of feedback, I'm offering free LSAT tutoring lessons, private one-on-one, to everybody out there watching this live stream or the video later. You can book your free call with me personally at unpluggedprep.com/start. Link below this video on YouTube, link in my bio on Instagram. I want to help out as many folks as I possibly can, and this call is 100% free. Link below. I'll be happy to help you out. And what that kind of call gives you is feedback that you can't get from a book or from an app. You're getting real human feedback on what exactly is holding you back. That is how you accelerate your progress. Now, let me give you some real examples. Take my student Ben, for example. He was stuck at a 158. He'd been studying on his own for 4 months, and his score had not moved in weeks. We helped him restructure his study plan, focusing on accuracy, not speed. We helped him keep a detailed mistake log where he would do targeted drills before getting into full tests. He ended up with a 173, got into NYU with a massive scholarship. And of course, that is not a promise or a guarantee that you'll experience similar, but I share that story to show you what is possible when you're willing to change your approach, because it's not about talent or about luck. It's about using a system that actually works. Now, I want to bring it to you. What is your actual plan to hit a 170 or above? Because truth be told, nobody gets there by accident. It's a function of studying in a very particular way, a particular structure, a particular feedback mechanism, not just taking practice tests and watching videos. I mean your actual strategy. For example, how are you tracking your mistakes? How are you spotting patterns? What are you doing today that's better than what you did last week? And who, if anyone, is reviewing your progress? And finally, what's your timeline to reach your goal? If you don't have clear answers to those questions, That is why you're stuck. The LSAT doesn't reward vague effort. It rewards precise action, deliberate systems, and feedback loops that compound over time. Now, the good news is that if you're stuck in the low 160s or even the mid 150s or below, you can absolutely get to 170 and beyond. You can earn a six-figure scholarship. You can get into your dream school, but it doesn't happen by accident. The students who break through their plateaus and reach the 170 level are auditing their prep regularly. They review their mistakes like scientists, and they track their progress every single week. They do endurance drills to train their stamina, and they get expert eyes on their performance. That's how you move from being stuck at 162 to scoring 175 or above on test day. Now, the LSAT is beatable, and it is possible to get into the 170s. But the difference between plateauing and breaking through isn't talent, it's having a process. You may already have the motivation, but now I want to help you build the system. So again, if you want my help, free LSAT tutoring lesson, unpluggedprep.com/start, link below the video on YouTube, link in my bio on Instagram. I'll be happy to help out as many folks as I possibly can. Feel free to reach out and book that call with me, and I'll be happy to help you out. Now, we got a question from Jamie asking, what should a great 2-hour LSAT study block actually look like? How should I use my time as effectively as possible? So if you're putting in the hours and you're not seeing the results, it is an effort, it's a lack of structure. So I want to give you the exact 2-hour LSAT study block I would personally recommend. A block that is simple, that's focused, and will actually move your score. So 2 focused hours, start to finish, no fluff, no breaks. You're doing reps, real review, and you've got a clear takeaway or actionable item to use in your prep going forward. For the first 5 minutes, you just set the stage. You set a timer for 120 minutes, 2 hours. You put your phone in another room, and you set an intention for how you're going to use that time. For example, today, I'm practicing logical reasoning or reading comp, or I'm doing a mixed drill, and I'm going to learn one rule I can reuse. Then you review the work you did yesterday. You look at the mistakes that you made yesterday. For each mistake you made, you want to answer 3 questions out loud. What did I think the conclusion was, or the evidence was? Exactly where did my reasoning go wrong? And what is my new rule to avoid this trap next time? You write that rule or takeaway in one line in your mistake journal or error log. Could be a Google Sheet, a Google Doc, a physical notebook. I don't really care. But you've got to articulate your key takeaway. You spend 10-15 minutes on this max, just extracting the lesson. Then you spend your next 40 minutes doing timed work, a full 35-minute section, plus setup and cool down after the fact. It could be a logical reasoning section or reading comp section. Doesn't matter. Could even be a targeted drill of doing, say, 15 questions of a single type, like necessary assumption. Now, the key is that any question where you're spending more than 90 seconds, you flag it, you skip it, you come back to it later. For reading comp, when it comes to notes, you just write down 1 line per paragraph to articulate the structure. You're not writing a whole novel here, just taking out the skeleton of the passage. You're not listening to music, you're not munching on snacks, you're not sending any text messages here, and your phone was in the other room, right? Then, getting into the second hour, you take a quick break and do a quick audit. So you stand up, grab a glass of water, 2 minutes max, then you write down 3 bullet points on what happened during your timed section. For example, what went well? Where did I lose time? Which 2 questions deserve a deeper review? Then you transition into doing that deeper review. You take the 2 hardest questions that will teach you the most from analysis. You go through them line by line. What trap language tripped me up? Was it quantity words like most and some? Was it degree of certainty words like always, never, or likely? What was the flaw or assumption of that argument in plain English? Why is my wrong answer wrong? Why was the right answer right? And what was tempting about the wrong answer that made me pick it? And what was unappealing about the right answer that discouraged me from choosing it? For logical reasoning, could I name the task and prephrase the answer before getting into the choices? For reading comp, Did my paragraph map or skeleton predict the questions? If not, we fix the map. And if you can't explain your mistake and the correct logic in 20 seconds out loud, you don't yet own it. Then the final 5 minutes of your study session, you want to write down one sentence. Today, I learned to watch for blank. That is your rule of the day. And tomorrow, you're going to start off by rereading that rule. Now, let's talk about pacing checkpoints. Logical reasoning, first 10 questions in roughly 10 to 12 minutes. You build up a time bank that you can then apply to the tougher questions later in this section that truly need it. For reading comp, you want to spend approximately 9 minutes per passage on average, because you've got 35 minutes divided by 4 passages, works out to 8:45 per passage and the associated questions. I generally recommend spending 2.5 to 3 minutes on your initial read of the passage so that you have enough time for the questions that come later. Any more than 3 minutes, you're already going to have a lot less than a minute per question, which really, of course, just is not enough time. And you got to protect your time ruthlessly. Now, when it comes to setting up your study environment, you want to have a visible timer. Could be a countdown timer on like an online stopwatch. It could be a physical egg timer. Doesn't matter. But again, your phone is in the other room so that you're not getting distracted. And you want to use the same desk, the same chair, ideally every single study session. And if you take the LSAT remotely from home, you're going to use that same desk and same chair on test day itself. And by the way, to make things as boring and consistent as possible, you also want to study at the same time each day if you can, and that'll be the same time of day that you take your actual official LSAT exam. Now, here's what I want you to stop doing immediately. I want you to stop rereading explanations before you try to diagnose your own error. You don't want to use explanations as a crutch. It's fine when you're super early in your prep, but as test day approaches, I want you to move away from the explanations and start engaging in more of your own review. And by the way, for the doubters out there, 2 hours is enough time to make real, steady forward progress if you use it right. You do this 4 to 5 times a week, and you'll be making steady forward progress, and that's enough to get you there to your goal by January, February, or beyond. And again, if you would like my help on your LSAT prep journey, if you want some personal feedback on your approach, you can book that free LSAT tutoring lesson with me at unpluggedprep.com/start. Link below the video on YouTube. Link in my bio on Instagram. And if you like these live streams, if you like these Q&As, I'm doing an all-day live stream tomorrow, starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be going all day. I'll be answering as many questions as I possibly can, doing live Q&A. Of course, we'll be supporting those who took the October LSAT and are getting their scores back tomorrow. But I'll also be looking ahead for the January, February LSATs, April and June as well, and beyond. So tune in tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Book that free call with me. In the meantime, unpluggedprep.com/start. And in the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.